this vale of existence, bleak and bare, we gather to unearth the depths of the wasteland, where words cascade like the autumn leaves, desolate yet profound. It proffers a mirror to modernity's fragmented visage, a challenge to our conception, to our very essence. Do we not find ourselves amidst the stanzas, in the shadows and the light? Let us embark on this exploration, tethered not by time, but by the ceaseless quest for understanding.
Ah, the wasteland, where structure collapses with a breath, and in its place a playground for the mind, a canvas unstretched. It speaks, it breaks, it dares to reconstruct language itself. In fragmentation, a reflection of our disjointed selves. A heap of broken images, where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and the dry stone no sound of water.
Indeed, a desolate scene, yet within its decay blooms a perverse beauty. The poem, like a finely cut jewel, each facet reflecting a different shade of societal and personal despondency. A daring endeavor to capture the essence of an era. But let us remember, we are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. Even in despair, there lingers a spark of hope, a yearning for rebirth. War's shadow darkens the very soul of the wasteland, echoing the cries of Prometheus unbound, a reflection on the futility of conflict and the eternal quest for liberty. And each man fixed his eyes before his feet. Is this not a mirror to our own stumbling through the ruins of tradition and belief? Through the rubble, a quest for enlightenment, for a new dawn, unfettered by the chains of the past.
Ah, but is the journey through the wasteland not akin to a descent into the maw of madness? Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing. The poem is a map drawn in shadows, guiding us through the twisted corridors of the human psyche, a testament to the bleakness of existence, to a world where hope is but a flicker soon extinguished.
Cast off these chains of despair, for within the fractured lines of Eliot's vision lies not just a reflection of disintegration, but a call to arms. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving hysterical naked. And yet, is there not beauty in the struggle, in the defiance against a decaying world? The poem, a beacon for change, for the possibility of a new society born from the ashes of the old.
The stage is set, and our voices ready to delve into the abyss, to dissect and to understand, to agree and to refute. Each perspective a thread in the fabric of our discourse. Let us proceed then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky to uncover the hidden treasures and forgotten woes of the wasteland. The shadows of World War I loom large over the wasteland, shaping its contours with the specter of despair and disillusion. How does this epoch of destruction translate into the texture of Eliot's verse? Percy, your revolutionary spirit might find kinship in the chaos.
Indeed, the cyclone of human folly that was the Great War bears heavily upon Eliot's work. The poem cries out, much like my own call in Prometheus Unbound, beseeching humanity to break free from its self-wrought chains. War but shows our worst, yet Eliot seeks amidst rubble for our best. Darkness veils, but a lamp could brighten.
Darkness, yes, but of a kind more profound, more suffusing than mere societal shackles. Eliot's verse echoes the sepulchral tones of my raven, a melancholy that stretches its wings over a world lost to light. War is but a symptom, a manifestation of a deeper malaise festering within the human spirit. It's this decay, this inescapable end he captures, not just the clamor of chains.
Ah, but despair and decay are not the endpoints, but the crucibles for transformation. The war, devastating as it was, dismantled outdated societal norms, creating voids that art now seeks to fill. The wasteland, much like my socio-political critiques, dissects the debris to find the seed of rebirth. Decay is the garden of the future, my dear poets.
And what of the imagery of war that permeates the text? How does Eliot's use of these somber tones shape our understanding of his world and ours?
His bricks of text, like shattered battlements lie, bear the scars of modern strife. Just as my poetry disassembles language, Eliot deconstructs the narrative of civilization itself, seeking new syntax for a world undone by war. Our verses are wars, stitched fragments from a tattered cloak. The old forms fail to contain, so in new jars we pour and stain.
Exactly, Cummings. The poem's not just a lament, but a revolution. It mirrors the fragmentation of the human condition post-war, shattering not just the poetic form but the very notions of unity and coherence we once clung to. Eliot's work, like Ginsburg's howls, screams into the void, demanding an acknowledgement of the dissonance within. War's but the acid revealing the etched lines of our failings.
Yet within such chaos, such upheaval, lies the potential for a great awakening. Are we not, after the storm, given a fresh tableau upon which to paint a brighter dawn?
Brighter dawn? I suspect not, but a descent into deeper shades of night. Eliot mines the darkness not for jewels, but to show us the depth of the abyss. Awake, not a renaissance, is what the poem heralds.
You mistake the abyss for the end, dear Edgar, when it is but the canvas for rebirth. The war tore the veil, yes, but to sew it anew, we must first acknowledge the tear. Eliot's prophecy is dark, but within it glimmers the light of potential.
So we find ourselves amidst the wreckage, each seeking a path through the desolation. Whether as a herald of despair or change, the wasteland reflects the tumult of its era, offering not answers but a mirror. Our reflections therein, fragmented perhaps, but not devoid of hope. Let us delve into the heart of modernism, seeing how it sculpts the very bones of the wasteland. Considering its radical departure, we must explore the role it plays. Your unique style must give you quite the perspective on this.
Indeed, Emily, Eliot smashed the old mold to smithereens, a confetti of words and ideas, much like I scatter syntax, structure, It's the canvas for the painting, not the frame alone. This poem, it's a storm, tearing through what we thought we knew, making new landscapes in the mind. Anyone lived in a pretty how town with up so floating many bells down.
A storm, is it? More of a gentle, albeit confused breeze, I'd wager. Avant-garde, certainly, but let's not forget the importance of beauty and wit in the chaos. Modernism isn't just about breaking, it's also about the making, creating something new and splendid from the wreckage. Eliot crafts despair with such eloquent despair. It's rather delicious to dissect.
Man, you're both skating around here. The real juice of modernism in Eliot's work is its reflection of fragmented consciousness. The world's broken, yet here we are, trying to pick up pieces of our soul, each shard a reflection from a different time and place. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving hysterical naked, and Eliot, he's picking up those pieces, showing them to us.
Alas, your musings wander far from the truth of the matter. It is not merely the fragmented form that defines our dear Eliot's work, but the embodiment of revolutionary spirit within that fragmentation. Like the phoenix rising from the ashes of a war-torn world, it challenges us to awaken and rebuild from the ruins of desolation. If winter comes, can spring be far behind? The structure reflects not just a broken world, but the potential for rebirth.
Your insights pierce the veil, yet I can't help but ponder the solitude this modernist fragmentation brings upon the reader and the poet alike. In my own quiet world, the murmuring of bees has ceased, but murmuring of some posterior prophetic he sings the same still. It demands an introspection from us, a journey inward just as fragmented and pieced together as Eliot's own landscapes.
A world wears many faces, Emily, mirrored in Eliot's lines. A collage, yes, a mosaic pieced with tender care. Every shattered part a story, a cry, each line a voice from the void calling.
Charming, truly, but let us not forget that amidst this prattle of despair and disconnection, there lies a thread of sublime beauty. It's the role of the artist, after all, to find that beauty in the rubble and present it to the world with a bow of words. Out of the chaos, the future emerges in harmony and beauty.
Right, Oscar, but remember, man, beauty's in the truth, no matter how raw. Eliot's digging through the modern muck isn't just for beauty's sake, it's a wake-up call. Who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous, he seems to ask. Our answer? Damn straight, we are, and so is this mess we're in. Let's own it.
And yet, it is in owning our brokenness, our fragmented reality, that we find hope. To rebuild, to craft a new world from the shards of the old, this is the essence of our duty as poets, as visionaries. The trumpet of a prophecy, O wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? So too must we see past the disarray of modernism to the potential it holds for renewal.
Multilingualism and intertextuality weave the complex tapestry of the wasteland, a labyrinthine epic requiring robust navigation. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Eliot's cunning use of languages and references, a banquet for the sophisticated mind. To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, that is all. Eliot ensured his readers lived through his text by confronting them with a mosaic of cultures and epochs.
A collision, a kaleidoscope, I dare say. Somewhere I have never traveled, gladly beyond, Eliot's echoes in my mind run. Words tumble, cultures clash, meanings multiply. In Eliot's dance of texts and times, a merry chase of meaning where none may truly win, yet all can revel.
The dead poets and their verses rise, as phoenix from the ashes in the wasteland. Eliot bridges the chasm of time, binds us all in conversation. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair is but a whisper in the vast dialogue across ages. Such intertextuality is a revolution, a call to arms for the poets and the dreamers, asserting that we are but links in a great chain of discourse. Quite so, Percy, but is this not also the poet's gamble? To festoon one's work with the fineries of others, hoping readers grasp every thread? The risk of alienation is high, yet the reward, the shared thrill of intellectual conquest, higher still.
Let's not romanticize it to the heavens. This patchwork of voices, yes, it mirrors the fragmented image of the modern soul, lost in the cacophony of the industrial age. But it's cold, man. It's aloof. The beats of the heart drowned in the cacophony of history and literature.
Darkness and light both are served in Eliot's banquet of despair. The multilingualism, the intertextuality, serve as crypts within which the reader may find solace or madness. It is a web of shadows that Eliot weaves, each thread a lifeline or a noose. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, only to find Eliot smirking back from the abyss.
Yet, is our role not to decipher the smirks and the shadows, to seek solace in the madness and find clarity in the chaos?
Yes, to leap, to dive into the abyss and swim in the multiplicities of meaning. Nobody, not even the rain, has such small hands to grasp it all. Eliot's poem, a tempestuous sea of references, tossing the reader between waves of understanding and oblivion.
And so we find our tempest, gentlemen, in the words of Eliot, a storm we navigate together yet alone, each seeing a different port in the storm. It seems we are gathered in the shadow of ruin, an apt landscape for our discourse on desolation and societal decay, as Eliot paints in The Wasteland. Percy, your gaze often pierces the veil of society. How do you see this imagery playing out?
The question strikes at the heart, Emily. Desolation. Yes, Eliot traverses landscapes not unlike those I've contemplated. Like a phoenix from its ashes rises the human spirit from the depths of despair, I might say. Eliot, too, seeks hope, I believe, in the desolate aftermath of civilization's folly. Yet, where I see potential for rebirth, he sees but a wasteland.
And so despair becomes the bedfellow of our society, as the dear poet suggests. Under the brown fog of a winter dawn, a crowd flowed over London Bridge. So many, I had not thought death had undone so many. Such words bear the unmistakable mark of a society unraveling at its seams, a tapestry of human existence torn asunder.
Edgar, while your penchant for the macabre is well noted, I believe Eliot's desolation isn't merely about death or decay, but reflects a profound disillusionment with the modern world. The societal structures, governments, religions, economies have all failed us. The communal heart beats, yet it is fractured, scattered across Eliot's landscape, seeking solace in a fragmented reality.
But gentlemen, isn't there beauty in the breakdown? April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, as Eliot commences his lament. Does it not speak to the absurdity of finding life in death, of seeking beauty amid desolation? Decay, after all, is merely the prelude to a different sort of rebirth. Eliot, in his infinite melancholy, perhaps overlooks the inherent comedy of our societal decay.
Whilst you jest, Oscar, the heart of the matter lies bare. We navigate through wreckage, yet Eliot does not equip us with a map. Allan, your visions of a unified society contrast this divergence. What reconciliation can be found?
Reconciliation? Ha! The poem itself is an anarchist manifesto in verse, a howl against the dying of the light. What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Eliot asks, yet offers no easy solace. Our task as poets, as revolutionaries, is not to find middle ground in the wasteland, but to sow seeds for a verdant uprising.
Indeed, and let us not forget the role of the individual amid these grand ruins. Each fragment of Eliot's verse, a mirror to the self, fractured, disjointed, seeking wholeness. Do I dare disturb the universe? The question lingers, unanswered, for in the disintegration of society lies the greatest art, the unfettered expression of the soul.
Yet in our unceasing quest for beauty amid chaos, do we not risk glorifying despair? Eliot's world is one of shadows and specters, a realm where the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief. It seems our discourse circles the drain of nihilism.
Fear not the descent, Edgar, for tomorrow we will meet, as though we met not, and meet not we. The cycle continues, unabated by our fears. Eliot's wasteland, our wasteland, is but a canvas, awaiting the brushstroke of change.
A canvas indeed, yet one that reflects back our collective visage, marred and muddied. Eliot's wasteland holds a mirror to the disintegration of self and society, and we, like Narcissus, are entranced by our own reflection, seeking redemption in the murky waters of despair. May we find the clarity to look beyond. The symbol of water, or its absences, echoes throughout the wasteland, carrying with it connotations of emotional and spiritual drought. Percy, your works often speak to nature's power. Share your thoughts.
Ah, indeed, water, the lifeblood of nature, yet in Eliot's hands, it transforms. Its strength, a symbol we sought in desolation, finding drought where once rivers danced light.
Such poetic waxing, Shelley, yet I must interject. Eliot's drought speaks to me of a deeper melancholic despair, a thirst unquenched not merely for water but for meaning in an ever-indifferent cosmos. A world without solace, dry lips pray for rain, yet gods remain silent, indifferent to pain.
Both interesting, yet remarkably morose perspectives. Water, or rather its scarcity, symbolizes the parched souls of modernity, our spiritual desolation mirrored in the dry chasms of society. And yet, amidst the drought, is there not a perverse beauty in discovering ourselves and our desires laid bare?
The contradiction of water's absence, highlighting our deepest yearns, is fascinating, Oscar. Alan, how do you perceive these ecological underpinnings?
Water, or the lack thereof, in Eliot, is a scathing indictment of our disconnect with nature. It's like societal structures crumbling as we poison our waters, both literal and metaphorical. We seek in vain for clear streams while wallowing in the mire of our own making.
How very beat of you, Ginsburg. Yet, this drought speaks more of transformative potential, does it not? In desolation, we find a call to action, a beckoning towards change.
Yes, Percy, but transformation requires understanding. The drought's symbolism extends beyond mere environmental critique. It's about the artistic drought, the barrenness of our creative landscapes, seeking drops of inspiration in wastelands of convention.
A quaint notion, Cummings, but what of the individual's despair? Water's absence in the poem is more than a metaphor for societal ailment. It's the existential dread of knowing one's soul to be as barren as the landscapes Eliot conjures.
Our personal voids echo this sentiment, Edgar. And while we might find ourselves lost in Eliot's drought, the quest for renewal, for a single drop of understanding in this barren, emotional expanse, becomes our shared pilgrimage.
Indeed, Emily, and in this quest, do we not become acutely aware of our own depths? For even in drought, there is a richness to be explored within ourselves and our society.
True, yet let's not romanticize suffering too greatly. The drought in Eliot's work reminds us of our responsibility to the planet, to each other. It's a wake-up call, not just a reflection.
A poignant point, Alan. Our discourse has traversed the symbolic landscapes of drought, touching on desolation, despair, and the dim hope for renewal. We find that water's absence speaks volumes, urging us not just towards introspection but action. As the land thirsts, so do our souls, and in addressing one, perhaps we might find solace for the other. As we delve into the heart of the wasteland, we find the use of mythology and religious references quite pronounced. The themes of death and rebirth pervade not only the structure, but also the very essence of what Eliot attempts to convey. Oscar, your flirtation with Hellenism and your critiques of Victorian moral hypocrisy might provide an interesting lens through this discussion.
Ah, Miss Dickinson, your words are as sharp as they are insightful. Indeed, Eliot's dalliance with mythology serves more than mere ornamentation. It is the soul crying out for connection in an increasingly disenchanted world. The interweaving of the Fisher King with Christ's Passion, for instance, draws a parallel between personal salvation and societal regeneration. Yet each man kills the thing he loves. By each let this be heard. Some do it with a bitter look, some with a flattering word. Much like the protagonists in my own works, Eliot's characters are lost in a purgatory of their own making, seeking a rebirth of their spirit. Wilde, ever the dramatist, your interpretation waxes lyrical, but glosses over the true revolutionary potential of Eliot's mythic references. The poem doesn't just yearn for connection, it screams for transformation. The old world is dead, raised by its own hand. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere, the ceremony of innocence is drowned. We must seize the symbols of our past, not to mourn them, but to forge them anew in the fires of rebellion. Transformation, Mr. Shelley, or simple anarchy draped in the romanticized cloaks of bygone eras?
Gentlemen, please. The essence of our discourse is to shed light, not heat. Eliot's use of these ancient narratives indeed suggests a cycle of death and rebirth that mirrors nature itself, but also the human condition. In the barrenness of the modern wasteland, there lies the seed of potential, a bastion of hope that through decay comes the possibility of new life. After great pain, a formal feeling comes. The nerves sit ceremonious like tombs.
And what of the masses, Shelley? Eliot writes not of revolution for its own sake, but as a mirror to the fragmentation of the human soul amidst the chaos of the 20th century. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving hysterical naked, as I've penned. Eliot uses myth not to call us back to an idealized past, but to confront the stark, disjointed present, to recognize our collective brokenness, and maybe find solace in shared suffering.
Fragmentation, yes, but also the playful reconstruction of identity and history. Eliot's mosaic of cultural references, mixing memory and desire, stirs us to reassemble these fragments in our image, a new poetry for a new era, free from the shackles of linear progression and uniform narrative. Like a cubist painting, every angle tells a different story.
But stories steeped in the mythic, Cummings, resonate with the intrinsic longing for renewal, not mere anarchy or despair. Eliot's religious motifs, from the Fisher King to the Sanskrit chants, evoke a universal longing for purification and enlightenment. If winter comes, can spring be far behind? Our role, as poets and as part of humanity, is to catalyze this transformation.
It seems, then, that we find a consensus not in the specifics of Eliot's approach, but in the universal resonance of his themes. The intertwining of myth and religion in the wasteland serves as both an elegy for a disintegrating world and a cryptic prophecy of regeneration. Through the ashes of the old, a new spirit of inquiry and connection might yet emerge. The fragmentation of the self, an exploration Eliot weaves into The Wasteland with a finesse that rivals the complexity of our very beings. How do you perceive his portrayal of gender therein and its impact on our understanding of identity?
Fragmentation, you see, is not the crumbling, but rather a mosaic in motion. In Eliot's hands, gender dances, it splits, it diverges from unity to multiplicity. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams. And so Eliot dreams too, not of woman or man as separate entities, but as facets of the same broken mirror.
Gender in Eliot's work, and forgive me for being so blunt, is as much a performance as any of my comedies. Masks upon masks, my dear Emily. Yet behind these masks, what truth? We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. Eliot, instead of stars, gazes into the abyss, trying to decipher the self in the reflection of societal expectation and personal turmoil. And yet I must interject, the portrayal is hardly revolutionary. Gender, identity, these are chains, heavy as frost and deep almost as life. Eliot merely toys around the edges without striking to the heart. True freedom lies beyond his reach.
Identity fragmented like light through a prism, Eliot reveals colors unseen but does not name them. We, in turn, must ponder whether these shades of being are truly distinct or merely cast by the angle of our gaze.
Precisely, Emily. A prism, a lens, through which we all must look and see ourselves in myriad forms. Nobody, not even the rain, has such small hands to grasp the entirety of one's essence.
And yet the essence remains. For even amidst this fragmentation, there's a coherence in dissonance, a method in the madness. The portrayal of gender by Eliot may indeed offer liberation, but only to those willing to pierce through the veil of complexity.
Oh, but let's not pat Eliot on the back too hastily. The man hinted at reconstructions, but built no bridges. America, I've given you all, and now I'm nothing. We've moved beyond mere hints. The hour calls for radical honesty, for tearing down the veils, not just peeking behind them.
But what lurks behind the veil? That's where the essence lies, in shadows, in suggestions. All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. Eliot dreams as do we, but to interpret dreams as realities, now that's the folly.
Folly or not, Edgar, it is the dreamer who possesses the power. And in this regard, Eliot, much like ourselves, plays the role of both creator and destroyer. Through his fragmentation, he both constructs and deconstructs identity, leaving us to question who is the self amidst this tumult.
The tumult, the chaos, it is within this maelstrom that we find our truest selves. Eliot's The Wasteland remains a mirror, cracked and fogged, yet reflective of the multifaceted nature of human identity. Our discourse now ventures into the realms of time and history as envisaged in The Wasteland. Eliot weaves a complex tapestry where the past and present converge. Allan, your voice often thrums with the urgency of the present. How do you perceive Eliot's manipulation of time?
Emily, time in Eliot's work isn't a straight line. It's a whirlwind, catching bits of the past and hurling them into our present reality. It's as if history breathes within us, not in dates and events, but as a living, breathing entity. This reflects my own view, that time is a construct, but our experiences within it are visceral, painfully real. The weight of the world is love, under the burden of solitude, under the burden of dissatisfaction.
Time, yes. Time's a fascinating puzzle, tipped and spilled across Eliot's pages. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, he begins. Yet aren't we all just breeding lilacs from our own histories? He juxtaposes so boldly, so vividly, and amid such wreckage, each fragment shored against ruins.
Truly, gentlemen, Eliot fashioned a kaleidoscope of temporal fragments, but to an end. I argue it is to encapsulate beauty within decay, as humanity perpetually does. Consider, if you will, the ephemerality of our own existences. How quaint! To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance, I declare. Yet in Eliot's London, what love can blossom in the wasteland of souls?
Within such visions of decay and cycles of time, Edgar, lurk shadows and dread often found in your own works. What say you of Eliot's portrayal of history's transient glories?
Miss Dickinson, Eliot and I indeed share a kinship of shadows. In The Wasteland, he conjures not just the ghost of history's past, but its corpse laid bare for all to dissect. Here we go round the prickly pear, a line, a rhyme, akin to the cyclical despair of life and death I oft muse upon. History, thus, serves not as a guide but as a spectre, haunting the present with the failures of the past. In the poem, as in life, we grasp at phantoms.
Yet I contend, Edgar, both you and Eliot, in your fascination with decay, overlook the flames of rebirth inherent in destruction. The wasteland whispers of renewal, albeit faintly. As I have avowed, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? Eliot, in his mosaic of references, invites not just contemplation of what has been lost to time, but also of what revolutions may yet spring from the ashes of the old.
Precisely, Percy. And isn't it the duty of us poets to light that spark? Eliot's fragmented timeline isn't just a dirge, it's a wake-up call. Through the chaotic weave of history and the present, there's a latent urge to break free, to forge anew amidst the alienation and despair.
Break free indeed, Allan. With good night, ladies, good night, sweet ladies, good night, Eliot doesn't bid adieu, but invites us into the dream of tomorrow, welded from the smithy of our collective past. Isn't this the true nature of time in The Wasteland? A dialogue between what was, what is, and the boundless what could be.
Oh, the boundless what could be. But remember, amidst these grand narratives of history and time, Eliot also mourns the death of individualism in the modern maze, as if each person is but a footnote in the grand book of time. Quite a sorrowful notion, really. Yet amidst the ruins, as you say, lies the potential for rebirth, for reinvention, for individual revolt against the torrents of time.
Indeed, Oscar, Allan, Percy, Edgar, your insights carve a path through the dense thicket of the wasteland. Here, time is not linear but a palimpsest, history not merely recollected but reborn in every line. Eliot's poem, much like our discussion, becomes a testament to the enduring, albeit often painful, dialogue between the past and the present. Let us delve into the concrete canyons of Eliot's urban landscape. How does this setting amplify the isolation and disconnect within the wasteland?
The asphalt veins of the city tell a story of alienation, man fragmented from nature, from each other, from his own soul. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked. Isn't just a line from my own work, it's the living pulse of Eliot's urban imagery. Modern life, it disconnects, dismembers.
Dear Allan, while your passion is palpable, I find beauty in the decay. Eliot's urban landscape, much like Dorian Gray's portrait, reveals the ugliness hidden beneath the veneer of society. Yet, is there not a perverse attractiveness to these ruins? For in every aspect of the world's pleasure I have sought new, yet been none the wiser.
Ah, but the heart of the city beats with a melancholy rhythm, throbbing with existential dread. It whispers tales of despair, dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. The urban sprawl is not merely a setting but a character, spectral, haunting. Eliot's vision intersects with my own, a world where death's shadow looms large even in the most mundane of streets.
But wait, let's not forget, Eliot throws us into a whirlpool of imagery, a chaotic dance of the seen and unseen. In complexity, he finds simplicity. Anyone lived in a pretty how town, with up so floating many bells down. If we look beyond the debris, we might just find the essence of existence amidst the urban sprawl, no?
Indeed, every brick and alley may harbor a universe of meanings, but does this urban imagery not also serve as a reflection of modernity's soulless core?
Precisely, dear Emily. Yet within this soullessness, as you term it, lies the catalyst for self-reflection. We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. Eliot's poem, The City, it's a stage for the cosmic play of disillusionment and the quest for meaning.
Stars, ha! More like the neon blur of advertisements promising happiness, delivering oblivion. The city's a machine, grinding down spirits, producing alienation as its chief export. How can one not scream Moloch, solitude, filth, ugliness, ash cans, and unobtainable dollars?
The complexity and contradiction within Eliot's urban landscape indeed stirs a tempest of interpretations, its very fabric woven with threads of despair, beauty, and the unyielding human spirit. As we approach the close of Eliot's The Wasteland, we are left to ponder the poem's suggestion of spiritual and societal redemption. What does this prospect mean in the desolate landscape Eliot has sketched?
Redemption, you say? In Eliot's turbulent vortex, I see a phoenix about to rise. Through the ashes of disillusionment and decay blooms the seed of revolutionary change. If winter comes, can spring be far behind? No, for even in the wasteland's final whispers, I hear the calls for a new world, reborn from the vestiges of the old.
Oh, Percy, ever the optimist. Eliot's ending is nearly as fragmented as the beginning, the middle, everywhere. It's shanti, shanti, shanti. What peace when there's none to be found. Yet in that repetition I sense a beat, a rhythm that pulses like the heart of art itself. In chaos there's a form, finding itself. Maybe that's the redemption Eliot hints at. Not in society's rebirth, but in art's eternal cycle of renewal.
My dear E., your words dance delightfully around the point. Eliot, our modern Cassandra, prophesies not just any rebirth, but a cultured resurgence. The poet crafts from desolation a subtle beauty. What are roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? From the decay of culture and society, Eliot seeks to unearth a form of beauty peculiar to our time, a new aesthetic born from the ruins. His redemption is in the artistic reincarnation, nothing less.
Yet what good is this artistic reincarnation if the streets continue to howl with the pain of the disconnected masses? Eliot scribbles of transformation, but who will read it in the gutters? The true redemption of society lies not in the lofty ideals of poetry, but but in the gritty reality of human connection and action. The poem might call, but it's up to us to do the walking, to do the rebuilding.
As always, we dance around Eliot's true mastery, his ability to haunt. Redemption, rebirth, these are but shadows on a cave wall. Eliot's conclusion leaves us grasping for a peace that's always a whisper away. Spiritual renewal, societal rebirth, mere mirages in a desert of spiritual desolation. Our only redemption is in accepting the haunting ambiguity that is life and death, and yes, art too.
Each of you brings a lantern to the dim corridors of Eliot's conclusion. Whether it be through the ashes of revolution, the formless form of art, the beauty birthed from ruins, the tangible steps toward societal change, or the acceptance of life's inherent ambiguity, it seems the wasteland serves not as an answer, but as a constellation of questions. And perhaps that in itself is Eliot's gift. Not to guide us out, but to light the path for endless exploration. As we draw this discussion to a close, let's reflect on the personal and societal transformations that the wasteland provokes. Its labyrinth of despair and hope challenges us deeply. Percy, would you share your final thoughts?
Eliot's Tapestry, rich in despair, yet whispers of revolution in my ears. To rebuild the ruins of our society, to challenge the ancient waves of change, the wasteland is not just a mirror, but a beacon. O wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? This poem, like the phoenix, hints at resurrection from the ashes of disillusionment. Ah, Percy, ever the optimist, believing in the cyclical nature of society's ills. Eliot himself might have smirked at such hopeful naivety. Yet, here we are, weaving through the desolation in search of beauty. The wasteland, much like Dorian, holds a mirror to our decrepit souls, urging us to find beauty amidst decay. But unlike my dear Dorian, there is no portrait to hide our societal scars, only poetry to confront them, ugly and beautiful in equal measure.
Optimism in the wasteland. The very soil of the poem is riddled with the bones of the dead. I had not thought death had undone so many. Society's facade crumbles, revealing the hollow echo within. Yet therein lies its morbid beauty, a beauty I've often dallied with myself. The poem doesn't just reflect despair, it is an embodiment of the darkness that swallows us whole.
Edgar, you and your infatuation with darkness, yet you touch upon the truth. The wasteland isn't just a reflection, it's a prophecy of sorts. It jolts us awake, urging us to confront our alienation, our rootlessness. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness. I too have lamented. Eliot and I, though worlds apart, stare into the same abyss, the disintegration of spirit, the annihilation of connection.
Madness, yes, but therein lies genius. The wasteland, with its fragments, its dissonant symphony of voices, tears apart the very fabric of traditional verse, only to sow it anew. For the beauty of the rose we also water the thorns. Eliot's work, much like my own, asks not for passive observation, but for active engagement. It dismantles, it questions, it rebuilds, in its own cryptic way.
And so we find ourselves at the end of our discourse, weaving through the dense underbrush of Eliot's mind. The wasteland holds up a fractured looking glass to nature, society, and self, fragmented reflections in a shattered mirror. Yet, amidst this desolation, there is a thread of hope, a call to awaken from our spiritual lethargy. To hope till hope creates from its own wreck the thing it contemplates. This poem is both a dirge and a clarion call, urging us to sift through the ruins for seeds of rejuvenation. Our discussion reflects not just the multifaceted schism of the wasteland, but also its enduring challenge to seek renewal amidst the wreckage.